Let's go! Not over.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host, Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots and promoter for the Plastic City Comic Con. With me, as always, Johnny C., creator of Sartana, Surrounded by Death and the Pond.
By the skin of my teeth.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then our third co-host, Harry G., graphic artist extraordinaire. What's going on, fellas? Johnny, you just made it in the nick of time, man.
Today's
That's
a
awesome.
Monday. Let's just leave it at that.
Dude, this is going to be a hell of a week. I just looked ahead like this right up till Christmas is like a disaster this week for me. I don't know if it's the same for you guys or what, but what's that?
For me,
Harry, I think you're on mute.
You might be muted, Harry. For me, it works a little bit crazy. So basically for my scenario right now, I just sat down as the Surrounded by Death intro was playing. I was like, oh, yeah, it's like by the skin of my teeth. I had to reformat my system at work. So I basically had to like do everything and I work remote tomorrow for other things. So I won't be in the office. So I had to do like everything I needed to do before leaving the office, which then in turn left me with like a whole margin to get in for the show. Yeah. So, and I was having FOMO because I missed the last show. So
I know, dude. And it like we carried on without you, but it was like your absence was missed. Wouldn't you say, Harry? I don't know what's going on with Harry.
It wouldn't be a show unless we had at least one technical difficulty.
Yeah. I don't know if, let me see if his mind.
Are we able to unmute him?
Yeah, no, I'm trying.
No dice. There we go.
Here.
Harry, say something.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. There he is.
What were you trying to say? I saw that you said something.
Classic. I can't hear you guys.
Oh, you can't.
Hold on a second.
Oh my
it's
God.
Not one way, it's the other.
Yeah,
so
right.
You have a pretty busy week yourself, Keith?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
One second. I can't hear you guys. Carry on without me.
Well, maybe either maybe try going out and rebooting and come back, maybe something like that.
Dip out, dip in. Bear with us, people. I know this is riveting, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So like this week, like they decided like my regular job is like up to my more hours than I usually have. So that's causing some stress. And then like on top of that, my knee, I don't know if I told you this, Sean, my knees are so bad right now. Like I started having pain about a month ago, like both knees really hurt, but like, just from doing cons for like the last 15 years and actually being back in retail on my feet on like, the both stores that I work at, it's like concrete floors. So it's almost like working a con,
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Got us?
Okay,
I think
perfect.
He's back.
I'm fully back.
So I had to go have x-rays and all that shit. And like, and now I'm doing physical therapy. So I have that
Oh my
twice
God.
a week, trying to get my knees back into. So I guess like what the doctor was telling me after looking at the x-rays, like my kneecaps are like to the side, like they're like, and that's what's causing the pain. So they're trying to get it back to a normal, kind of like thing where I can just kind of walk around and not have
So
to wear knee pads and
What
stuff.
caused that? Do you know?
It's just a degenerative over time. I think I
yeah.
didn't have any like injury that caused it,
Do you wear
So
knee braces at all? Like to
I
keep...
do, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, when we go to the gym or go on a bike ride, I have knee braces on and stuff. So, and now I started wearing it at work, so I look like, look like Horace Pinker or something, But like, yeah, it's funny. Like I was working with some young kids, and like I have like, oh my God, I'm such a mess. Like I have like the things that you wear on your arms so you don't get tennis elbow. So I have both of those on. I have 2 knee pads on each, or a knee pad on each knee. And I was like, the kid's looking at me like with his like what the hell is this guy doing? And I was like, sorry, just putting on my old man gear, So,
You're just gearing up for the ring.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, at least you're not wearing a helmet yet.
You're gonna have to drop a
Yeah,
fool.
true. Yeah, true.
Remember,
So I guess
Johnny...
if you and we should let people know that like the next 2 weeks will be off for the holidays, so we won't be live. Then I figured no one's really going to be watching on like the day after Christmas and New Year's Day and stuff. So like we figured might as well just take it off, and just come back. I think we're back. Was it the 8th? I think, or something like that. The first Monday after New Year's, something like that.
Yeah, we don't want them having an ICR overdose.
Yeah. Well, we've had it for like what, 3 months now.
We gotta leave them wanting more, right? So
yeah. So technically, this is the last show of 2023. So wow. Which is kind of, I know, isn't it crazy? It's nuts. I got the stats from the channel too. Over like I get the emails from YouTube, and we gained 200 subscribers in 2023 alone, which is crazy. Like they gave me all the numbers and the watch time and everything, and it's doing well, dude. We're getting up there. We're currently at 927. So
wow,
we're closing.
What's our watch time? Do we have that handy?
I do have it. I don't know if I have it handy, but it's up there. It's getting there.
Next year we'll do a recap. We'll have like bars and grids. We're showing graphs. Whatever.
Yeah, right.
Monday Night Football theme.
We'll have what's her name singing our the anthem. Monday Night Football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carry on.
It's good though. I think we're doing something right. We're gaining people. Like this. It's funny. Like even the store I work at, there's a couple people that come in and say they watch the show, and I was like,
That's
really?
cool.
I was like, it's like you never know who's like really watching it and stuff.
Like, are you Keith Gleason from IC?
I haven't gotten that yet, but
for me, it's like I log in here and it's like it's us and the guests. Like I don't even think about viewers until people start commenting and chatting. So it's very easy to disassociate when somebody actually approaches you live in person. It's like, oh, I love watching you on YouTube. You're like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
We're live in front of everybody.
We actually have we have a bunch of new people that just seen in the chat here. Scary Good, what's up, man?
Scary Good.
Amy's Birdhouse.
What's up, Amy?
That's me. Aaron's here.
Aaron,
what's
what
going
it is,
on?
Aaron?
I mean, there's so many some new people watching. That's great.
Love that.
We got 2 great guests tonight too. Like 2 people. Well, it's funny. Like so Brian Kelly's one of the guests that reached out. It looks like he has a really cool book. And then Tom from Committed Comics reached out, and I realized, I don't know if you met him, Johnny. He was at Wicked Comic Con in April, and he had a booth, and when we were talking backstage, and I was like, yeah, we totally met each other at Wicked, and talked for a little bit. And he travels all over to conventions like you do, so
it rings a bell. If not, there somewhere else, I think we crossed paths because I specifically remember Committed Comics.
Okay.
So that rings a bell somewhere. So I don't know. He might be able to remind me.
Yeah, definitely. And like maybe once you start
started.
talking to him, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember where." Like
Yeah.
you might click with you.
It's so many shows, so many people.
I
it's
know
so
that's
hard
the
to keep
thing,
it
dude.
together.
And it's funny, like a lot of times, like I won't remember a name, but I remember faces really well. And like, hey, you know, like, you're gonna do one of those.
The trick is to get them to say their name first, or introduce a friend who's close by. Go, I want to have you meet this person, and then that way you get the name out of them.
I try to get Amy to do it for me, like if she can like introduce
You need
herself.
a partner in crime in that regard, yeah,
exactly. Because she even as I get older, my memory's getting even worse. So it's like
another little trick of the trade is if people are standing in front of your booth, right, and they're chit chatting and blocking or whatever, you have a friend or a booth mate or somebody get in front of the booth and have them snap a photo, and then people just disperse.
Yeah,
okay. A polite way to usher people along.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Before we bring in the guests, one more comment here from Tony James. Merry early Christmas, guys. Tony, good to see you, bud.
So I'm way behind on Twitter, and I think I have a direct message from Tony. Okay. I will get back to you, Tony. It's just my life's been crazy right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. So without further ado, let's bring in tonight's guests and let's talk some comics, So I'm going to start with our first guest here, Brian Kelly. Brian, thank you for coming on the show. Welcome.
Thanks.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, thanks for being here. And then also Tom from Committed Comics. Tom, what's going on?
How are you? What's going on, guys?
Hey,
so did you hear us talking backstage about conventions? Like yeah, I'm sure Johnny's met you.
So the funny thing is, so it's like if you think your memory's going at your age, I'm probably older than you guys. So I'm even more lost on where I might have met Johnny. But in reality, I mean, where are you based at, Johnny? Where's your home base?
I'm in Boston, but I frequent San Diego, C2E2, and New York.
Okay,
so we could have met somewhere in between.
Yeah. So San Diego's probably the only one out of those three that I do consistently. So I've been doing San Diego for 22 years now.
Oh, wow.
2024 will be my 23rd year.
Were you part of the scavenger hunt that Don? That's how we know each other. Ding, ding, ding. Yep. We were part of the floor scavenger hunt. It was a real neat thing that
not a scavenger hunt.
The not a scavenger hunt. Exactly. There was certain terminology we couldn't use, but
Comic-Con doesn't like that.
Yeah, exactly. Comic-Con
says Thomas is as old as dirt.
Yes. Thanks.
Do you know? Is that somebody you know, Tom?
Yeah, that's a good friend of mine. So
awesome. DS, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us as well.
So did I, DS. So yeah, our good friend Don set up a floor map where everybody got a freebie if you circled and did a tour of the floor of San Diego Comic-Con. But what it did was it brought people to your booth to give you an opportunity to sell to them. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I did really, really well with that method.
That one didn't drive as many sales, but it did get people to actually see the stuff. So even if it was for 30 seconds while I was helping another customer, they were kind of perusing. I always look at those type of marketing opportunities as in long-term.
More to be seen, right?
Yeah, more than long-term, because I'm going to participate in it again next year. Last year was or this year, technically, because we're still in 2023 for another 5 hours or whatever it is at this point. That was the first time I had participated in that, even though I've known Don for years and that kind of stuff, but it was the first time. So next year I'm going to do it as well.
I imagine it must be better in San Diego because I've been a part of those, and like same thing as you're saying, Tom. I don't get a lot of sales from them.
Right.
It's more like you hope people take a look at your booth while you're signing their thing, and like
it's like 1 in 10 or 1 in 8 might be a sale.
It was probably about 1 in 12 for me. I actually partnered up with the unofficial San Diego Comic-Con blog, and I'll be doing that again this year. They're
a blessing. If you can get a promo from them, they're a blessing. My booth mate Chris Mays from Mays Illustrations, he gets featured every year, and it's just like it turns into a pre-order system for him. So people are approaching the booth. stuff already paid for, ready to go, and they just get their package and go. And he does so much pre-sale. That way. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, so I convinced them to do trading cards for the prize mules. So they have something called prize mule, whereas they have these stuffed mules that on Twitter, or now X, they'll take a picture.
Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. They'll take a picture of the mule somewhere, and if you can find them with the mule, you win a prize.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
And that's all you have to do is find them.
Yeah, like when they do fun stuff like that, I think that really helps.
They'll do stuff, and I actually witnessed it in person because they did a prize mule at my booth one day, just because they were coming by. So we did trading cards of the prize mules, and so you could come to me every day and get one card, or you could find the owner of the prize mule, and they would give you their card for their mule. And so basically, mine was the easier way to get the cards every day. So I had people coming every day, and then we had a chase card to where if you did a purchase at my booth, you would get the card for free. And we had things as low as $3. So it was like,
cool.
Why not? So
these people engage, drive sales. I like it.
But they did a drop, and so he waited for the crowd to disperse, and he put the mule down on our table, and he took a picture of it, and literally less than probably 3 minutes, we had 3 people come running from different sections of the aisles towards the booth. And one person, so it was one of those things that was like, this works. Holy cow.
Yeah.
It's a good, one more thing, just to put a tag on it for San Diego. It's a good feeling when you're the booth that they come running to.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember being the kid running to a booth. So full circle, when you have that moment of them running to your booth, it feels so good.
Well, you also get, if you get 1 or 2 people come to your booth, all of a sudden I notice other people come over because they think something's going on there too. Like that always helps, like that was always like a thing,
Yeah, anytime you see like a crowd or a line.
Yeah, they always like subconsciously they're like something's happening right over here, So that's
there
that's
a lot of people who were coming to my booth every day to get the card were also doing the scavenger hunt. So they would come and they would have to do a secret password, which I would put out on Twitter every morning. And then I would give them the card, and then they go, "Oh yeah, my friend is also doing the scavenger hunt. Can you sign off on their thing for them?"
Yeah.
And then I would tell them the next person closest to me. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Brian, do you do conventions at all?
Well, I live in Berlin, so.
Oh, do you really? Are you actually streaming from Berlin?
Yeah,
like Deutschland, Berlin?
Yeah, in Germany.
Oh, very good. Sehr gut.
Awesome. So I don't do any of the U.S. conventions.
No, how is the convention scene out in Germany?
It seems terrible. I just went to one. It was more of a manga fest. I was told that it was gonna be that, but yeah. So anyhow, I went and checked it out to find out that was a fact. There was some manga booth next to me that was packed the entire time. People seem to not be interested in me at all.
Yeah. So how do you here are slowly turning into manga and anime cons as well. Just that.
Yeah,
the fandom is growing.
It's the number one thing over here. Like it's beating regular comics. So like I'm not surprised. It's kind of interesting. So it's interesting to hear that it's happening over there too.
Yeah. How did you end up in Germany? By the way, I wanna hear this backstory.
I took a plane.
Oh, that makes sounds about
End
right.
of story.
All right, on to the next.
Well, actually, I should start with the origin question for you guys.
Right.
And,
Yeah, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit.
Yeah, because usually when we have a new guest on the show, we love to find out origins, like how you like I always love to find out what comic or movie or cartoon that you grew up with that kind of put that little spark in your head that want to be a creator. Like, and you kind of get to know a person just by their taste and stuff, So if I don't know, do you want to start first, Tom? Like, can you point to something in your childhood that put you on this path?
So I'm not quite old enough to watch it in real time, but the Batman 66 TV show, which I caught in reruns. Okay, I'm not that old, but no, I caught that when I was really little, and essentially, for lack of better memory and that kind of stuff, that was pretty much my first words.
Okay.
Was na Batman.
Was it really?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what my parents tell me. They're like, I probably said mom and dad beforehand, but that was like the string, like the most talking at one point, which I'm sure thrilled my parents.
Oh, man, that's great. That's actually, I love that.
Yeah, that pretty much set off my love of comics at that point.
That's awesome. Yeah, I too was like a fan of that, but I only saw it in reruns as well. And
well, again, it was exactly,
goofy, but it was like part of the time.
It was
too goofy for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
it is goofy.
It caught your imagination if you were of the right age, right? So
I think so. Yeah,
anywhere between probably 7 to 12 age range, like that was like burned into you permanently at that point.
Well, plus the comics were goofy like that at the time when that show came out.
Yeah,
they didn't
in the 60s,
start getting
definitely
serious until Neil Adams came in and stuff in the 70s.
Yeah, yep, mid 70s time frame, and Murphy Anderson and Denny O'Neil writing it and really giving it that
giving it like more, making it more serious.
Yeah,
but it was goofy like that. Johnny, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, sorry. Culturally in the zeitgeist, when you have an adaptation like that, where it's like, oh my, these comic characters come to life, when it wasn't really commonplace, where we're in this glut of superhero media now, but back in the day when you had this opportunity, the Incredible Hulk is on a TV show every week, and that's the closest we have to that character in a live action form. It's very easy to look at it with rose-colored glasses and forgive the inconsistencies to the comic book because our characters are being brought to life. Kind of like the first Transformers movie had all the hype, and then when you look back on it, it's like, oh, this movie's kind of rough.
That movie's still epic. How dare you, sir? How dare you, sir? That movie is still epic.
Wait. Are you talking about the newer movies, live action?
The live action ones. The live
action.
Okay. I have no idea what's going on in those movies. Like, I just see like mechanical parts, throughout the screen. Like I have no idea who's doing what.
That's pretty.
But as a fan of it, when you don't have a live action version of it, it's like, oh, that's really cool. Then you see it and look back and you're like,
but we had the cartoon movie, and there's nothing to
that's
beat
still
that.
The best.
86 is always the definitive Transformers for me.
Yeah,
but
anyways,
absolutely.
We digress.
We have the power.
So Brian, same question. Is there something that you could point to in your past that kind of sparked you?
Yeah, I was thinking, maybe like in actual comics. I think it was like my grandma had a collection of comics, which was actually like my youngest uncle's collection.
Okay.
And it was just like a mix of whatever he had. And I think the thing I remember the most from like the collection was like the X-Men. And it was
nice.
David Cockrum, John Byrne stuff. And of course there wasn't consecutive issues. There'd be like 2 issues. You miss one.
Why would it make it easy for you?
And then the next one.
And back then you didn't know how to get the issues, like when you were a kid, like, I had no idea. Like,
house,
there was no like when I started, it was just spinner racks. There wasn't comic stores at the time, or they were just starting to pop up. And like, if you missed one, you're like, forget it, Yeah,
it also depended on where you lived. Like I was very fortunate. I grew up in New York. And so I always had, as far back as I can remember, I always had a comic store. Some of them were scary and dirty and you didn't want to go into them. And, you can look now and go back and go, they had a white nondescript van in the back, didn't they? But
Brian, what particularly about X-Men caught your eye? Was there anything like, about it specifically, or was it just kind of what was readily available to you?
I'm not really sure. I mean, because there was like some DC stuff, which I did not find so interesting. I remember also like there was Logan's Run, which I found quite interesting. I don't think I had any idea that was like a movie adaptation because like I was very young,
Yeah,
I think with the X-Men, it was mostly the art, but then the characters seemed quite interesting. This was all like the Starjammers sort of stuff. Which it's like when you're a kid, just like, oh, and then like I think the other part was like trying to piece it all together, which actually added to it, when you couldn't, and you wondered what happened in those 2 issues that you couldn't find, or like the ones, and it's like, what is going on?
Especially if you grab the one
little
after
captions like
Jean Grey,
up
screw up your brain. You know, if you missed the 2 issues after the death of Jean Grey, you're like, wait a second, she was totally fine 2 issues ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what the hell's going on here? Like, who's this Phoenix character? You know,
Right? Yeah.
No, it's. I mean, I feel for you because like I had same thing. You know, like I grew up but with just spinner racks, so I didn't know how to get if I missed one, like how to get the next one, and you know, now we're spoiled. We can get anything at any time. You know.
Brian, you mentioning Starjammers just brought me back to being a kid and trying to wrap my head around how Corsair could be Cyclops' father, but also Cyclops' Cable's father. It just made no sense to me. I'm just trying to figure it all out. Like what's going on here?
He got around.
He got around.
he got around, and also some bad writing continuity.
Yeah,
So, you know,
absolutely.
Brian is a novelist. I'm sure he can attest to that to some degree.
And Brian, I was going to ask, were you always living in Berlin? Did you grow up in Germany?
Grew up in southern Minnesota.
Oh, okay. When did you end up moving to Berlin? When you were?
I moved to Ireland in 2005, maybe.
Okay, so not terribly long ago.
In 2008.
Gotcha. Do you like it over there versus the States better?
I don't know. I mean, I've actually spent probably half my life here. So it's just kind of normal.
Gotcha. And you kind of like don't remember the Minnesota all that.
I remember it. Like
it's just
it's just I don't know. It's just where I am. It's what
when you're a kid, you don't really have much control over where you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that age, right? Whereas now, you know, you have the choice if you wanted to leave, you know, Berlin and go back to Ireland or go to the States, you can. So at least it has a little bit more of a, I guess, an impactful decision.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, and then usually after I talk to the guests about like their origins, like the next thing I love to know is like how you guys kind of took it from being like, you know, a hobby or something that you really loved growing up into wanting to be a creator. Like I'm assuming, Tom, you don't just run the company, you also are a creator with Committed.
Ironically, one of the main reasons I reached out to you is because the first book that I'm actually creating and writing is actually live on Kickstarter right now.
Oh, really?
Prior to that, I was the art director and the editor-in-chief, and kind of the cultivator of how the company was going to work.
Okay.
And I'd give suggestions and I'd give guidance, but I never really had a very strong hand in the creative process. And that was mostly just because of the fact that I felt more comfortable with more of a bird's eye view in terms of marketing, in terms of creating, in terms of trying to figure out, you know, I mean, I worked in retail in comic stores for many, many years. So I had a really good hand on what the general public wanted. To where I could see that.
I was gonna say, take a step back. So, did you start Iconic Comics, or did you become part of it?
So basically, what happened was me and a couple of friends were hanging around, doing as you do in the mid-90s, complaining about the comic book industry.
Yeah.
You know, the mid-90s. You know, let's go back to '94. You know, that was a really bad time frame in comics.
Well, let's just go back to last week. I mean, every week there's something going on in comics. You know,
but this was the time frame where it was just, you know, they were rehashing, reprinting old stuff, and it was just not good. And I was sitting around complaining with my friends because, again, we worked in comic stores, we read the books, we were avid buyers, and my other friend who was in the room, because, you know, we're all in college and stuff like that, he was like, can you just shut up and stop complaining? You know, either shit or get off the pot. Like, if if you're going to complain about the industry, then do something to make it better.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And I had friends who worked at Marvel. I had friends that worked at Valiant. I had friends, I would go and hang out at the Valiant offices. I'd go hang out in the Marvel offices with my friends. You know, I had a couple people who were freelance at DC who I knew. You know, and so it was kind of like, oh, yeah, let's do that. You know, so me and my friend Alex, who was with me, you know, we basically started Committed Comics with the concept of having it be an opportunity to bring new people into the industry. Because in the mid-90s, unless you had been working in the industry for years, there was no way to break into the industry. Like that, you know, the days of the Jim Shooters, you know, sending in unsolicited stories to DC for the Legion of Superheroes and getting hired to write the book, those days were long gone. You know, even if you look at the Image guys in '92, you know, they turned around and every single one of those guys was veterans in the industry by the time they created their own book.
Yep.
They had
Yeah,
all
I
been
agree.
working in the industry for a decade or longer at that
Yep.
point. Some of them 20 years, you know, and so there was no easy way to get into the business. And so I was like, well, that's stupid. There should be a minor league. There should be, you know, a way to kind of get in.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
the 80s, the late 80s and early 90s indie explosion and implosion, subsequent implosion, had already happened. So, you know, there was a bunch of people who got in and then everyone got out. And so we started the company with utilizing the people who we knew who had experience in the industry, finding a whole new group of people who didn't have experience in the industry and kind of blending the two. And then learned very quickly there's a reason why there's a whole bunch of people who are not in the industry who want to be in the industry, you know? So,
Yeah.
but it's like, you know, and it's because they can't meet deadlines. It's because they don't have the, for lack of, you know, no pun intended, the commitment to, you know, finish their project. And
Yeah,
there's
that's a huge
multitudes of factors that come into play, right? You know?
Yep.
So we started with a half a dozen different creators. We did 2 years in San Diego in a 10x10 booth. This was around 2000, 2001. This was before it
Oh
became
wow, you
$80
guys have been
million.
at it for a while. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we started in '99. We incorporated the company in '99.
No kidding.
And so, you know, we started with a half a dozen people, and guess what? None of those are with us anymore. Like,
Yeah, it's like a whole
none of those-
different
yeah, a
company
whole
now,
different
right?
crew. One of the creators released the book he was working on his own with another creator who we were friendly with, and that was the book Team Kaiju, which Wilson Ramos draws and writes and that kind of stuff. And he did that with Section 8 Comics, which is his own brand. But like, we were promoting that first issue for 3 years, and you know, it took him that long to get it done, just because of the fact that, you know, other stuff was going on. And then there was another group of guys who did a book called Liberty and Justice, Vinnie White and drawing a blank on the other gentleman's name, unfortunately, Arnie Gordon and Vincent White. They did one issue and they put it out on their own. And that was the only time they ever did the issue, you know, and that was, and some of that was the same content that they were working on when they were with us 5 years earlier, you know?
I mean, that's indie comics, right? Like,
Exactly.
everyone's working like a day job, and they might get a page done one weekend, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yep.
like, yeah, it's crazy.
And so,
like,
yeah, so we did a whole bunch of different books during that time frame, and we got some stuff out, and we sold fairly well, and we got into Diamond, and we were selling very well. And then I just opted to take some time off and restructure the company because we started to realize, oh, we're running out of content. We're running out of, and these guys who were saying they're going to get their books done are not able to get their books done, you
Gotcha.
know? And then we had gone through a couple different shifts, you know, with other creators who had started their books, and stopped their books, and started a different book and stopped that book. And so it took a couple years off, restructured the company, came back. And unfortunately, at that point, Diamond was like, oh, you have to re-solicit to us. You have to sing and dance again because you had been out of the catalog for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, all right, well, you know, don't really want to do that right now. So we just started doing convention and direct sales to retailers and that kind of stuff. And then basically the whole industry kind of started to fall apart. And then the pandemic hit, and then we all know what happened there. Then a whole bunch of distribution competition pops up.
Fell apart, yeah.
Fell apart, started over here, started over there, you know, like, and so
Yeah, now it's a whole mess. The whole
Yeah.
industry's a mess now. Like,
And-
you could see it coming, you know, while we were in the pandemic, you know.
I felt like
So-
the pandemic was a reformat for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
it was, and it also
changes now.
Yeah, it also kind of started to solidify or give credence to the alternative marketing and financing methods. Like I mentioned, I'm doing a Kickstarter right now, you know.
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
done
I feel like
a
that's where
Kickstarter
we're at.
in like 2008 and it failed because nobody knew what the hell Kickstarter was in 2008.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Yep. You know, I was right
And-
there at the beginning too, and
Yeah.
it was tough to trying to get people to like, what is this thing? Like, you know,
It's a
Yeah.
new platform. It's not
Yeah.
very commonplace. There hasn't been a lot of
Yeah.
great examples you could point to prove that Kickstarter was a proven platform. And
Right.
people are like, well, wait a minute. So this isn't a guarantee. So they hear and they see that, and you
Yep.
know, without having the
Mhm.
reputation to back it. In the early days, people were gun shy to it.
Yeah.
You fast forward to nowadays where there's, you know, massive products being unfurled on
yeah.
Kickstarter, and there's, you know what I mean? There's a lot of you know, protection plans and things in place, and
Yeah, I
checks
mean,
and balances.
they checks and balances, and they learn from their mistakes. But at the same time, I mean, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. I probably asked for double what I should have asked for. You know, like if I had asked
Yeah.
for a more realistic number, I would have funded back then.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that, you know, I was talking to the creators who we had signed to San Diego, and you know, this they were all excited, and they were like, okay, well, how does this work? And then we didn't fund, and the guy's like, so now what happens? And I go, well, now I print the book. And he's like, but it didn't fund. I was like, I was just trying to not have to pay for the whole print run myself. That's
Yeah,
all I was
right.
trying to do. I was
Yeah,
like, I
like,
already
you
had the
move
money
on.
earmarked. I'm a publisher. That's what we do. Like,
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
print the book. I was just hoping to not have to pay for it out of my pocket.
Right. I mean, like most of us like take a portion of our paycheck from our
Mhm.
regular job and it goes towards making comics, whether that's a
Right.
print run or paying artists, you know, whatever.
Or
Like,
cable
but I
income.
look at it like this though. Like, I don't go to bars, I don't drink. So like to me that's the money I would, you know, like if
Right,
I
that's
would
your fun money. That's your
yeah,
that's
my
your spending money.
recreational and my recreational money, I like to make, you know, put it towards my career, you know. So
Well, Kickstarter is the hope to recoup that expense,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And ultimately,
Exactly,
so-
or minimize the output.
minimize,
Right?
yeah.
But of course, you know, I mean, unless you're doing funding, you know, like Brian Polito or Jamie Tyndall, unless you're making, you know, $90,000,
Yeah, you got like a
I
whole
still got to pay
audience.
some stuff out of my pocket, right? You know, like,
Yo, absolutely.
you
But
know.
like that's all we're all trying to do, build our audiences,
Right,
you know.
yeah.
So, but Brian, how about your origin? Like, how did you like move from being a fan into you're an author, right? Like, is comic?
Yeah.
your job?
I'm mostly a tattooer.
What are you? A
A
tattooer?
tattooer.
Oh, are you really? Oh, wow, that's cool.
I've been like, I'm kind of the opposite of Tom. Like, I took about a 20-year break from comics.
Okay.
And
So did
only
you do one
recently-
before? Like, did you try it at first and then move on for like 20 years?
Yeah, when I was a
Back to it?
kid, it's kind of like the only thing I ever wanted to do was draw comic books.
Okay.
So eventually I went to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, which has a comic program. Like Peter Gross was the primary instructor at the time,
Oh, cool.
who you might know from like American Jesus and whatever
Yeah,
else.
yeah. He used to be like a
Who's-
Vertigo guy, right? Like he
Yeah,
did like
yeah, and Barbara Schultz, she's still there. She inked him in the beginning.
okay.
And yeah, I was actually like, I did a internship with Joseph Rubenstein.
Oh, wow.
Which,
Okay.
like, I'm not sure how much of an internship it was, but I remember filling some blacks after 9/11.
Oh, really?
Because Marvel was like, the book's right on time.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I self-published a couple of comics, probably like early 2000s.
Okay.
And then I got into tattooing, which
I was tattooing during COVID times. Probably not very busy.
it's actually pretty good.
Oh, really?
Is it really?
Wow.
It
I
was
would think the
illegal to
opposite.
work in Germany.
Mhm.
So the state gave us a lot of money, but everyone was sitting around with money, so everyone wanted tattoos.
Oh, I would think
Right
because
on.
of the closeness and would be that wouldn't be lend well to that because of COVID and whatnot. Tattooing being. I mean, I'm sure you wore a lot of protection.
Actually, I didn't.
You didn't, right?
Good job, Brian.
Tattooed illegal with no masks on.
Nice.
I didn't get it until I went to a wedding in Italy.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool though. Like I don't think I've
Nice.
ever known somebody that does tattoos but also makes comics too, which is kind of interesting.
It's all
So is that
art.
primarily your day job, Brian?
Yeah, I mean that's like it's been my main career for the last like 20 years.
Wow, that's
Cool.
awesome.
And like I published a book of Tattoo Flash, and I have like another one coming, but like the publisher takes so long. I was like, I should do something else.
Yeah, so you
Maybe I'm
started
gonna
doing
draw
more
comic
indie
books
stuff.
again.
What's that?
And like because the publisher takes years to get like the tattoo flash book out, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something else while I wait for the second one.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll draw a comic again. I haven't done that in a while, so it actually took me a while to relearn what I used to know.
Did you find like that you liked it a little more this time around, or like did the break, the 20-year break, like did you find love for it again, like when you did it this time?
Yeah, it actually got me like very into it. Like I was almost on the verge of like not collecting comics anymore. I mean, well, I'm not really a collector. I'm like a reader. You know, I happen to not throw the things away after I buy them.
That's the best way to do it. Best way to do it. Yep.
But I don't like, I don't collect them like to have them. Yeah, and like I started listening to like comic book podcasts while I was drawing, and like the cartoonist kayfabe. Like I think really like
I heard that's a great channel. I haven't listened.
They talk about the comics I read when I was like 15,
gotcha, yeah,
whatever.
Everyone recommends that channel to me, and I just haven't sat down to watch one of the videos yet. But isn't that like it's like the guys that run it, aren't they? They're comic creators too, like Ed Piskor and Jim Rugg, is it?
Yeah, Jim Rugg, and
like I know he just did like a Hulk book or something recently, didn't he? Like he has a really unique style, and they have like an indie book. Yeah, it definitely is, and it's a very it's almost reminds me of All Red. Like you either love them or hate them, It's got like a kind of like taste to it.
I kind of equate him more closer to a Ted McKeever because it's
Ted McKeever. Yeah, he's a really interesting style.
Yeah, can do some incredible storytelling, but with those both him and Jim, I just think you got to have the right subject. So like the Hulk and doing that was great because it's like that's a monster book essentially.
Right.
People don't want to admit it, but that's essentially what the Hulk is. It's it's a giant monster book.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
So it worked really well with his style. But he also did another.
Did they do a book called Red Room or something? Like it's like their indie book, both of them.
Isn't that a book about a serial killer?
Something like that. Yeah, it's a horror themed book. I know that. I've never read it, but I've heard it's interesting. So maybe one day I'll snag it. But yeah, I gotta check out that channel sometime. Everyone says it's really cool, so I'll have to definitely take a look. But like, I hear you, Brian. Like, like I often listen to a lot of comic stuff, related stuff, podcasts and things like when I'm lettering, and I like it. It's you get to hear other creators' perspectives and things like that, stories they tell.
Yeah, sometimes it's just background noise for when I'm drawing, but at the same time, like I guess I liked it because it brought back all my childhood memories when I was like super into comics when I was like 15 and like when Image was like coming out, all the stuff that I'd kind of like
exciting time and
decided was crap at one point. Yeah, it was actually like beauty to a lot of it, kind of, and it's like, and they're very like enthusiastic about the people that are maybe crap, like they're just, just like they don't like they don't like I don't know, give up their like fanboy kind of feeling to stuff,
Yeah.
Brian,
I love that.
When you were redrawing, like you were saying, you kind of had to relearn to some degree. Did you find that it was easier to do different like panel layouts and perspective now that you've gotten older and actually had more life experience, or was that still kind of a challenge in general?
No, I would say I'm a better drawer after the 20 years. It was a lot of it was like the technical things, like what my page size should be, how big my lettering should be, and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I do it all traditionally too.
Nice.
So even with the lettering, you do all hand lettering.
Yeah, it's on the board. Oh, wow. So if it's in the wrong place, it's a problem.
Do you use like what is that tool they use? Is it Ames lettering guide that they use?
I don't. I've never used one. I've heard about them since forever.
Yeah,
I've watched videos and I've watched people use them in person, and I still don't understand how they work.
I've
Like-
used them, and it's definitely like it, I don't know. I always thought my lettering looked like shit even when I used it. So like, so I'm glad digital came along because hand lettering I was horrible at. But like, I have used it, and they are kind of interesting, but you have to use a ruler, and you know how a ruler, like when you're trying to lay out a page, so if you don't have that perfect and it comes like at an angle, like your lettering is going to look like an angle.
Like if your
too,
angle and perspective in the panel is off,
exactly,
it's not straight on. Yeah.
So it's like it's tough, you know.
That's
to use
also
that.
where you realize that again. You know, yes, the penciler, the inker is an artist, and that but then you also go into colors and letters, and people forget about them. Kind of just like, oh yeah, they fill in the blanks. It's like, no, those guys are artists too, and
absolutely. Lettering, like I do that primarily as part-time, for other people and stuff, and it, like over the years I've gotten such an appreciation for that that art. Art design, like it's really like a design kind of like you're part of like the 2D design of the book, so it's like that's what I feel like. You're more like I like doing it. I feel like I'm editing a movie, like putting that final touches on the story,
So Keith, are you an expert in fonts because you're a letterer? Are you good at fonts or identifying them?
A little bit. Like I know like, I mean, Comic Sans, obviously no one wants to use.
Nobody wants it. Right.
Or like that Saturday Night Live sketch.
Papyrus.
Right. Fantastic. Like,
I know what you did.
Right.
The fact that they use it for a multi-trillion-dollar movie blows my mind, Bill.
I know.
It just irritates me.
But I do like looking through fonts, and like I do use a lot of the professional like Comic Craft ones and the
Blambots,
the Blambot stuff. I constantly hit those sites up big time. Really good stuff. Like, but what were you gonna say, Harry?
No, it's pretty sad when you're driving. You see like billboards or you see a truck go by. Like lettering. Like, you try and guess what the font. I'm still trying to figure out what font. I hate it. It's like
it's a curse knowing fonts. Sometimes
I refuse to let it seep into my brain that much and see that much around.
I try and fight it.
Or when you just see like when they do like a title on like a movie poster, and it's just like the most generic font. Like they don't even try to change it. What's that?
Yeah. Is it Helvetica or an Arial?
Yeah,
exactly. I think it's the R that's straight. That's right.
Yeah. So true, man. So true. But I try not to like Tom. I try not to like let it ruin, whatever I'm watching or whatever.
I wrote, at one point, like years ago, when I was at Deluxe still, I wrote. I think I read somewhere, it's like in the paper or something, or online that the creator of Helvetica had died. Like, oh my god, So then I wrote a whole paragraph like. In today's times, I wrote a whole thing using font language, in today's times,
oh my god,
like
really?
he is survived by his daughter Ariel, and it's like this whole like backstory of the Helvetica.
So like it was like made for like a handful of people that'll just
exactly. It's that small designer. Although you'd be surprised of how many graphic designers I know just want to just destroy people when they see what Harry's talking about.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people want to hurt me when I meet them. That is true.
Oh, that's great.
I was going to circle back around real quick to Brian. So I just wanted to verify, Brian, the book Francis and the Vegas Tramps. Now, did you illustrate as well as write that? Is that your artwork?
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I loved
and everything.
I love the artwork. Very simple, no color. Or was it meant to be black and white always? Or
what's that?
Did you ever mean to color that or leave it as black and white?
No, I intended that to be black and white. I'm actually working on the next issue, which I'm playing with coloring, but it seemed like 20 years ago, like having a black and white comic didn't seem as strange, maybe as it seems now, I guess.
Yeah, it's a preference, I think, with a lot of people, right?
I liked it.
it's not only a preference. I think what happened, Brian, because you're right, like back in the early independent days, it wasn't that big of a deal to have a black and white book, but at the same time, those books were being drawn and created with the understanding they weren't going to have color.
Mhm.
And then somewhere along the line, they basically started drawing and creating comics that just didn't have color. Like they were drawing them with the understanding that, oh yeah, they could be colored too, but we're too cheap to find a colorist, so we're not going to do that. And then it basically just became line art. It was no longer drawn and created for the intention of having a tone of being black and white. And I think that's kind of when, I think that happened when the price point shifted to where at one point in time, it was way cheaper to print black and white comic books, which is why a lot of people did black and white comic books. And then when it got to digital print and it was pretty much the same price point, that's when people just started, oh, I don't have money for a colorist, so I'll just do it in black and white. And it's, but in their mind, when they're writing it and drawing it and setting a tone and descriptive text and all that stuff, they're expecting it to be in color. They're seeing it in color, but then they're producing it in black and white. So I think it's great that you did your project with the understanding, no, this is going to be totally a black and white book.
I do like black and white sometimes. Sorry, Johnny, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I was in flipping through the sample you sent over, Brian. I was reviewing it. I'm looking at it. And I didn't get to read it in full, but I was like, this book feels very punk rock, and it kind of has like this Repo Man vibe. And now knowing the context that you're a tattoo artist, I can see maybe some of that flavor blends into the book specifically in Francis here. And I don't know if I'm on the hitting the nail on the head here with your intentions as you're creating the book, but I kind of feel a little bit of that vibe when when I was flipping through it and looking at the artwork and the art style and just kind of some of the context there.
While we're talking, let me bring it up so we'll take a look at it.
And also, are you a Elvis fan or a Uncle Jesse fan from Full House?
Yeah, I mean, I like Elvis. Yeah, I mean, the story is based around him. Like the story is actually like a continuation of the books I'd made 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought when I decided to redraw to start making another comic, I was like, what happens 20 years later in these characters' lives? And like the comics I read now, like I'm a big like Brubaker fan and Sean Phillips. Yeah. I was like, maybe I'll make it like a crime comic set in outer space with this rock and roll, like rockabilly background for the rock band thing.
I like his.
I know a lot about Elvis too, so I threw that in.
Yeah, that's cool.
Brian, is this your artwork here that we're seeing?
Yeah, this is all me. It's all like pen and
very
except for the stippling is a marker.
The stippling and the way you draw reminds me of I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's an animated movie. I want to say
Wizards.
No, Wizards is it kind of looks like Wizards too.
Kind of like the Ralph Bakshi stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Fantastic Planet? Is that the name of it? Like, do you guys remember that one?
What, the one that's rotoscoped there? Or is that what you're thinking?
So it has like weird blue aliens, if I remember right, and like they do like the stippling style with it. Reminds me of that for some reason. I don't know why.
Some of it looks like a tattoo. Some of it looks like Harvey P. Carr.
Yeah,
it looks very punk rock. It looks very kind of like an underground comic you'd find in the 90s. That was like kind of, you know what I mean? And I love I love that vibe. I love the tone of the book so far. It's really cool.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit down and read it too. I didn't have time either to read it, Brian, but I did look through it, and I agree. I like it. It has a very nice.
You got like Repo Man meets Buckaroo Banzai across the dimension. You know, because like you got the rock band, then all of a sudden you got aliens, and it's like
So what does this take place in the future or a different planet? Where are we now?
Far in the future, other planets.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of.
Can you give like a basic elevator pitch just for kind of the viewer?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like a sci-fi murder mystery with a rock band set in the future.
This is great.
And
this is a while to do. How long did it take you to make this book?
Probably took maybe 9 months or so.
It's a
Like when I
good story.
caught COVID, I finally had a chance to like write out the script when my girlfriend quarantined me in the bedroom.
Hey,
She
I got a
wanted
lot
eventually
done
anyhow.
during COVID. Let me tell you, like, so COVID, I think it helped me creatively, and I'm sure it helped you and others, as well.
Yeah. I spent the
Um,
time watching like Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, which was one of my original
Cool.
kind of points of reference to the story. I think
Oh,
I
is it
got
really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's funny.
from that. I had never
Yeah.
seen it actually, so I sat and watched most of it during COVID.
Yeah, dude, I
cool.
think I
No, it's
agree
really
with
cool.
Johnny. I think this looks like, like the kind of comic you would have seen back in like the 90s, like, just like specifically going into like Millionaire Picnic, Johnny, and going into like that local
The
section,
local indie section. Yeah,
like
exactly.
you would find that book right there on that shelf,
Something
like,
you'd see like Kitchen Sink Press would put
yeah,
out or
yeah,
something. You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Yeah,
or
something like that.
Fantagraphics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm gonna see if I can find
Or
that
Air Cell.
picture of that that
Yeah.
other that Fantastic Planet, because I just want to see if it compares to your artwork while we're talking.
If you're reminding it correctly, if you're remembering it perfectly.
Yeah, exactly, which
Yes.
doesn't happen a lot.
His memory isn't all there, as we discussed.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I
Brian, you were
mentioned many times.
Brian, you were saying that this is a continuation of old stories you had written before. What, I
Yeah.
guess, motivated you to bring those characters back to life and to kind of do this new presentation?
I was, I've done this tattoo flash stuff, and I was like, well, I'm going to do another comic, and I was like, it seemed like the simplest thing. I was like, well, maybe I should use the old characters, but then update it 20 years later. Like the rest is just backstory, but yeah,
Gotcha.
that seemed like an interesting concept to me, enough to go with.
Yeah, like,
So
here,
I have
like,
a
this
tattoo
is like
question.
this is the Fantastic Planet movie. Like, see,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's what, like, your artwork kind of invoked, like, that's what it reminded me of. This, like, the way this alien was drawn and stuff like that. Like, it just has like
The
kinda,
use
like,
of shadow.
yeah, really weird movie, by the way. But like,
I've seen
like it just the images like reminded me that, so.
So Brian, when someone do you do like custom tattoos, or do people come to you with like an idea in mind for a tattoo and then you draw it out for them? Is that
Yeah, I mean, usually, tattooing, I don't know, it's all over the place all the time.
Mhm.
But I prefer to tattoo the things that I've drawn, but if it's not something I've already drawn, you bring me your idea, and
that's cool? Yeah, that's what.
you can also bring me a simple thing that is tattooable. If it's tattooable, I'll tattoo that too.
Yeah.
Got a nice comment here from Tony Janes. Love the art style, very punk rock.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, Tony.
Great. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's got that. Yeah, definitely. It's got that cool 90s feel. So I'll definitely read it. I'll definitely I'll when I get a chance, I'll sit down and read the whole thing.
I read it
looks
real
great.
quick before the show tonight. It's very intricate story, or very involved story, but it's good. I like it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's great to hear.
Well, Harry's the only one who did his homework. Good job,
Yeah.
Harry.
Yeah.
Well, I try.
You know,
I know he's
Try
the
to-
best.
Johnny and Keith slack off. It's all
I
right.
usually take notes too before the show.
Exactly.
Well, I work till 2 p.m. every day, so I have a little bit of time.
A little more
between-
time than us. Yeah.
Right.
I'm
So-
envious. I'm like
I know.
scrambling to get home.
Well,
and
don't
sign
be
in.
too envious. I leave. I get up at 4 a.m. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's
So
I'm going to
awesome.
bed at 4 a.m.
yeah, I wish.
awesome. And then Tom, I definitely want to show your Kickstarter.
Yeah, let's
here.
pull up the Kickstarter and take a look.
Yeah, so it's Tales from the Asylum.
Yep.
So this is sort of like
This rings a
I see
bell. I've seen this before.
a
So here,
showcase for new comic talent. So
Yeah,
is this like an
so-
anthology? Like
sort of, but not really. So basically, what it is we have our company mascot Sancho. So, and I go into it in the Kickstarter. I go into a little bit of the history, but the kind of the short, quick and dirty of it all is my business partner Alex. One San Diego, he was bored, so he drew this little cartoon of a little chipmunk scratching his nuts. You know, and he was like, "Oh, this is our mascot now, Sancho." And I'm like, "What? No, this has, you know." And he's like, "Oh, it's a chipmunk." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Why not?" And that's kind of where it sat for a long period of time. Then at one point we were at a show, and one of my other artists was like, "Hey, I saw Alex's little thing. I'm gonna drew it." Like, so he drew a more. That's the picture there that Alex drew.
Right here.
Yeah. So, and then he went home and animated it because, you know, that was important. So then somebody else drew Sancho, and that's that image right there.
Right here.
The artist C. Troll, who did a book called Jackrabbit with us, he was like, "Oh yeah, let's just, you know, I'll take the concept of Sancho and kind of make him more, you know, a mascot that's fitting, you know, other than just a giant chipmunk," which made no sense. So he's kind of a crazy man. So what I would do is I would give out that image to friends of mine who are artists, and they would just draw it their version. So that's Bill Mouse's version of Sancho.
Oh, I love Bill
He
Mouse.
did his rendering. The other variant cover on the book is my friend Kevin McCoy, who's done work for Zenoscope. He's done work for Mountaineer Press. You know, he did his version. And so I have almost a dozen different artists, you know, just doing their renditions of Sancho for no reason other than either people were bored, or I asked them, or we wanted to work together, but we didn't have any projects that would make sense for them to sit at the table at San Diego or something like that to sign. So I had other people drawing. So then
I love this version of it.
Yeah, so that's Joe Martinez, who's the main artist for the book. So that was his kind of character sketches for him after seeing the original drawing, after seeing the dozen or so pieces, and having going through a script that I wrote. So that was his version. And these are all the different characters in the first issue. And the reason why it's considered the showcase for new talents is in every issue, there's going to be a story within a story.
Okay.
So you're going to have Sancho kind of like a Crypt Keeper style person telling a story about something, and then a different art team and a different creative team is going to draw that.
Keith, rewind real quick. Go back to that top sketch.
Rorschach.
Which one? This?
No, that's our version of character.
The very
named,
top.
Yeah, he reminded me.
No. Did you say Joe Martinez?
Yes, he did. He's done a book for.
Is that your
Ninja Sex
Joe?
Party?
So he did a book for what was it,
Ninja
Tom?
Sex Party.
Yeah, me and Johnny worked on that book.
He's my illustrator on Surrounded by Death.
Oh,
That
that's
is
hysterical.
That is where I heard you. That's it. Bing, 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 bing. Not only do I know you from that, Joe hit me up and goes, "Hey, have you heard of Committed Comics?"
That's
and
hysterical.
I told him that you were part of the floor plan.
Right, because I met him in San Diego 2 years ago.
Small world. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe's my illustrator on Surrounded by Death.
That's funny.
So Johnny
Small world
adapted the stories for Ninja Sex Party, and I did the lettering and the logo for their new comic.
That's hysterical.
Yes. Isn't that funny? What a small world.
He just finished the pre-order for the first issue sold out.
Yeah,
so
sold out in 24 hours or something, right?
Yep. Yeah, so he's supposed to be moving on to issue 3 of Surrounded by Death next.
So that's I love his design. This design he made for you is
awesome job.
Well, he did a couple different versions, and he did one that, because of the fact that the character is sitting in most of the other images you see of him, you can't tell how tall he is. So he did a couple versions where he was a little bit more shorter and stouter. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? There's something oddly creepy about a lanky guy who's very skinny, but you can't really tell he's skinny because he's got a straitjacket on. So he's got his arms wrapped around himself to make him look bulkier. So he kind of came up with that design. I was like, yeah, that works. I like this a lot.
I love this. It reminds me of there's an anime or something that this character looks like.
Thing is, so I have the different renditions of Sancho on my banner at cons.
Okay.
And I've had multiple kids come up to me and be like, that looks like so-and-so from that anime that you're referring to. I said, oh, well, it's not. It's my company mascot, Sancho, because that character actually has a collar that comes up below his nose.
Okay.
And he's a doctor type of thing. So he's still white. And I had one kid at a show argue with me and tell me I was wrong. And it was a character from that anime. And I looked at him and I was like, it's my company's mascot. You don't think I know who my company mascot? Are you sure? Okay. So I know the character you're talking about because he literally pulled it up on his phone. He's like, see? And I looked at it, I'm like, that's a coat. Like, like that's his teeth.
Oh, that's great. I like the idea of taking a character like this, and especially something that's your company mascot, and making him like a crypt keeper type or something.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that we had a book, our very first publication back in the day called Threads. Committee Comics presents Threads.
Okay.
And it was 3 different creative teams telling 3 separate stories that were all woven together with one constant thread. Okay. Henceforth the title of the book. And so my initial idea, we did 3 issues of Threads, and it just became too much of a logistical nightmare for me to continue to direct 3 different art teams who have never worked in the comic book industry, and try to gauge them and get them on a timeline and get them all, So we stopped that, but I wanted to bring it back, and I was just going to have Sancho as the Crypt Keeper style character introduce the story. So have 1 or 2 pages of that, have him introduce, and then have 2 pages at the end, have him close out the story. So I was like, okay, so therefore it'd be like a 40-page book or something like that. And it would be 48 pages with, ads and promos and all that other stuff.
Right.
And so that was my original idea. And then my friend Harry Huddleston, who does a tremendous amount of cons, is an amazing artist as well, and that kind of stuff. He was like, you should just write your own story with him. He's like, it looks like, you can make him like Mr. Mitzel, make him, a powerful.
Whatever his name is.
And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I'm like, yeah. But the problem is he's completely insane. He still thinks that he's an angry chipmunk. Because his name is Sancho the Angry Chipmunk. And so that's pretty much what the story is. He tells a story within a story. So that's the creative new art team that I'm going to find people at shows, do portfolio reviews, find people who can do 10 pages,
Yeah.
And they can write 10 pages. And again, I still want to keep the theme of blending professionals with amateurs. So for issue 2, which I've already started writing, and the script for the story within a story is going to be written by Heather Finley, who's worked for Aspen, and she's done a whole bunch of other stuff for some other independent companies. So she's done a ton of writing and stuff. So I'm going to find an artist who's never worked on a project and bring them in.
That's awesome.
For a second, I was very impressed that you got James Taylor working for you. I'm a big fan of his music.
Yes.
I got a comment here too for you, Tom. Do we need a Sancho emoji? That'd be a great idea.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
He looks pretty emoji adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you could just kind of alter one of the existing emojis.
Yeah, probably.
So Tom, if I was just gonna say, Tom, if you're if you're looking to kind of come aboard of Tales from the Asylum, what would be the introductory tier that you would say, hey, readers, back this one?
So basically, why you're saying? Why should they?
No, not why. What tier would you recommend? That people to come aboard.
Well, obviously the easiest one is the digital, right? Because of the fact that it's cost effective and that's the thing. And I understand people are not exactly flush with cash all the time right now. Totally get that. For me, because of the fact, much like Brian, I am a fan of reading stuff that I never seem to throw away. Right? Like that's kind of, some of the stuff I get for the intents and purposes because I know it's collectible and I know it'll raise in value, but I also read everything I own. So for me, it would be like, which cover do you like the best? Right. So that's the one by Kevin McCoy right there. He's a little bit creepier. It's a little bit, weirder. We also have
like Scarecrow almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little more scary. Yeah.
Very
like
scary.
the character of Scarecrow from Batman.
Yeah. A little bit like that. Yeah.
Sancho by way of Blumhouse.
Yeah. Totally. But yeah, so, and then people who are Bill Mouse fans, who are newer X fans.
Yeah.
But then we also haven't done it in metal. So obviously that's the collectible element, right? So if somebody wants, something a little bit more. I always say go with the cover that people like. For the most part, it's not that much.
Yeah, pick the cover you like
point.
and kind of snag that one. Yeah.
And then if someone did want it, to read it and also enjoy it and maybe have it become collectible, get the signed versions, because in the past with Nira, we've always done for the Kickstarter signed versions, it's always been done on a signature plate. So basically I make stickers, send them out to Bill, he signs them, sends them back to me, right? Because it's easier to send 240 stickers than it is to send 240 books, right? With this campaign, I'm actually sending him the books. I'm actually sending Joe the books. They're actually getting the books to actually physically sign them to send back, so it won't just be on a sticker. It'll actually be on a physical book.
Nice.
And then chances are that'll be the only way you'll be able to get those ones, right? Because unless you come to a show and find us somewhere or something, to that effect.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then I've also got add-ons. So like one of the add-ons is, I don't know if we'll be able to see this. That's Bill Mouse's cover.
Oh, let me see. Hang on. Hold that up. Oh, so, cool. Yeah. Yep. That's awesome. Yeah.
And then for promotional purposes, last year I got canvas bags made up. So these are big-ass canvas bags with Bill's artwork there. Mm-hmm. And then we also have one. So these are some of the other variant covers that are going to be coming. So that right there is a Sean Chen piece of Iron Man fame. Sarah Ketch. There's Chris Enott, who's done a ton of covers for Absolute Comics and Zenoscope as well. I think he's done a couple pieces for Aspen and Lady Death at this point, too. And then Kevin's cover there.
Got to flood the San Diego floor with those bags this upcoming year, right?
I know. Well,
we need everybody walking around with one.
Yeah. So every year I always offer them, spend X amount of dollars, get a free bag.
Right on.
But the funny thing is that people don't always pay attention. So a lot of times they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get these 2 books, and literally that's all it becomes. Is you just need to buy 2 items from our table, and you qualify for the free bag. And I hand it to them in a bag, and they're like, holy crap! And then they feel the quality of the canvas, and it's a heavy canvas. Like you can literally carry 60 pounds in that bag without even blinking, not worrying about the handles at all.
That's great.
You can fill that bag with more products.
That was
more committed comics.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Tom, like just a question about the crowdfunding. Like, do you find is it tougher this time of year to get people to back a project than it is in the summer?
Yeah, well, so that's the funny thing is, so it's kind of weird because I've done 6, I think, or 8 campaigns or something like that. So, and most of them were done with Nira, right? Nira X and stuff like that. Yeah. Again, she has a 30-year history. She has a 30-year fan base. Not quite apples and apples, kind of more like apples and watermelons kind of deal, comparing them. So, her campaigns fund very well. We ran a campaign to collect a miniseries that was out of print. And I ran it in the summertime, and it didn't do well. And I kind of equated it to people being out of the house, people not being locked on computers. Although at the same time, this was after COVID, so people were then allowed to actually leave their house, right? So then it became this thing of like, oh, geez, well, I don't know what's better. This campaign was supposed to launch in September of this year. And I was like, you know what? I don't have enough interior artwork done. We don't have a cover done. I hadn't found a colorist yet. And so it was just me and Joe talking about it. And I was like, I'm going to push it back. I'm going to keep pushing it back.
That stuff's important because it does give that perception that the book is in progress,
Yeah, and so it was like one of those things. And it got to the point where I was like, you know what? And then I finally made the decision of which interior story I was going to tell on this one too. So that's a pre-existing story that we did years ago, which is actually funny because that's Dustin Weaver's artwork, who's done, S.H.I.E.L.D. with Jonathan Hickman from Marvel. He's done King Kong for Dark Horse. He's doing Packless as his own creator-owned project at Image. He's got some credits under his belt. He did a 2-year stint on X-Men. He did an Avengers Now miniseries.
Oh, cool.
So he's got a ton of stuff. So that was essentially the 3rd piece of sequential artwork he'd ever done because he did it for us years ago. And we did a very small print run on the last issue of Thread. I think we did less than 100 copies. So no one's seen this story, essentially. So I was like, Danny Donovan wrote it.
Yeah, might as well bring it back now that he's kind of a name in the industry.
And when we did it, we actually did it as black and white line art. We didn't have a colorist. So this is the first time it's actually being colored by Omar Franza, who's done coloring for DC and Marvel. So it's kind of funny because on the first issue, it's a reverse scenario to where the new talent is the regular art team for the book, and the story within the story are the seasoned professionals.
Oh wow, that's
You
cool.
know?
I like that. Yeah.
But this is the first story I've ever written, and it took me forever because I was still writing it as an editor as well as an art director. So
Oh,
I was,
awesome.
and I'm sure you've run into this as well. You're editing as you're writing.
Oh
And
yeah,
do that.
absolutely.
Of
Yeah.
course.
You that's the worst thing to do. You'll just literally never finish. And
One thing I was going to ask you, is the video short? Because we could play it if it's a short one.
Basically it's just a collection of just some of the interior images and from sketches, Joe's sketches and breakdowns, with some funky music that my friend Morgan Quaid did for me.
Oh yeah, Morgan's been on the show.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I didn't have a video, and the other guy
Nice.
who was supposed to get it dropped out on me, so I was like, well, thanks.
Cool.
All right, yeah, let's
Fire it up.
play it.
Let's
Yeah,
check it
play
out.
I love it, dude. Very
Awesome.
30 seconds, perfect,
straightforward.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Very
so,
cool.
yeah, I love it. That's great. Yeah, so check that out. I'm gonna share the link in the chat here for people.
Right,
to
my
take a
brother-in-law
look
is there. Thanks, Pete.
at.
And
I was gonna put that one up in a second. I was waiting for the right time to kind of do it, but he said he's Tom is kind of sexy. I like it.
I was going to ask Brian, where can people get your work?
Bitchin'.
You can get it through Amazon or
Yeah.
directly from me at shopbriankellyanarmy.com.
This is the Amazon link in the chat for Brian's book. Also, both of these links will be in the description of the video. So if you're watching this tomorrow or later this week, definitely jump in. Looks like the Kickstarter is going for another 8 days.
Yeah, another week. Yeah, I mean, again, it was one of those.
You're getting close.
I'm getting close.
You're a little more than
60%.
what, 60% or something.
Yeah,
like that?
almost 60%.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you'll get there. I think you'll
Yeah.
make it before it's
again,
over.
Before the year's over, maybe.
Yeah, Well, I mean, yeah, the 27th it ends in the morning on the 27th.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, I've got Christmas, so maybe people will get a Christmas bonus and they'll be like, you know what? We're
Yep.
gonna get some books.
Yeah, that's not a bad play. Thinking about that.
So again, the funny thing is that I did the Kickstarter campaign. I'm hoping it funds and that kind of stuff, and I can make all the cool extras. But bottom line is, the book's getting printed. Like I'm literally, Joe's literally turning in some more pages, and we're just gonna go ahead and print it. Why? Because it's my project. Damn it,
That's awesome.
It's my project. I'm hoping by San Diego to have issue 2 done, if not issue 3, by that point. So, it's either going to have all the bells and whistles or it'll just be the book.
I was going to say too,
me.
how many books has Committed Comics actually put out over the years?
Ooh. So series wise, we've done 1, 2, 3, about 9 different series. 4 of those were mini series at 3 issues a piece. So yeah, we've got quite. If you go to comic titles, we've got a bunch of different ones there.
Something's wrong with our
we've been,
setup
yeah,
here.
like ooh, we're moving around. We're dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did individual issues for a long period of time, and then we shifted over to graphic novels because the industry was starting to change. The industry was going more. This is when the book market first opened up to comic book stores or comic book companies, and so a lot of people were just going to, bookstores, and so we switched to graphic novels, and then from there I switched back to individual issues because as we were doing more conventions, it was a different way for people to come back to us. So
Gotcha.
like Java, Neo Dawn, Miss Miniver, Nera X Reborn, those are all multi-issue series. So
Yeah, that's great.
most of them have 3
think a lot.
issues. Miss Miniver has 4. Confidence Pig is a giant art book done by Sean Dietrich, he's worked with like Korn and Slipknot, and he does rock shows all over the country. He goes on tour. He's done an Alice in Wonderland book, Wizard of Oz artwork.
I'm aware of Near X just because of Bill.
Yeah. Well, and again, 30 years, right? So it's like a 30-year character, that
Yep.
a lot of people are familiar with.
And who can forget the boob boob mouse pad that came
Yeah,
out
the
for
booby
the
mouse
Nero.
Yeah, I'm almost
Which
full
is
out of those. I've only
amazing.
got a very small handful. So yeah, so on one of the Kickstarters we did for Bill, we were going through different reward tiers, and I said to him, I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? You know, because again, I want the creators to be involved with it. I don't want to just be a publisher that goes, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah,
We're
right,
done,
right.
You know. So he said, you know what I've always wanted to do in the 90s? And Nira had a lot of stuff. She had an action figure, right? She had, you know, like a short little animated thing. She had, you know, actually multiple action figures. You know, I think she had a statue at one point and that kind of stuff. So, you know, I was like, what do you want? He's like, oh, well, I always wanted one of those booby mouse pad things. But back in the mid 90s, it was too expensive to produce. So I was like, I know a guy. And so I went and got him done. And so, you know, it's like,
sounds very interactive.
yeah.
Yes, I've seen it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
We did that for the first issue Kickstarter that we did for Nier Reborn #2. And then for #3, we did a butt mouse pad because Nira has an evil doppelganger with the amazingly creative name Evil Nira.
Okay.
And, you know, that's, you know, why not?
Yeah.
And so we did a butt mouse pad for her. So it's
I
her
love it.
looking over her shoulder, you know, and you pretty much have her butt right there. So I
Yeah,
mean,
that's great.
You know, kudos to Bill on the perspective work. You know, that's number one because that's not easy.
I love too that you guys like, and the character definitely has like that history, but I like that you're still putting it out because like it seems like there was that time in like the 2000s where like the bad girl comics were the thing, you know,
all the rage.
that seems to have died, you know.
And then it died out. And then the funny thing was actually all came about. We can all thank Sam Wallace for having Committee Comics be the new publisher of Nira X because Sam used to be part of Comic-Con International.
Oh, okay.
And so he used to be the floor manager for WonderCon and San Diego. And I did WonderCon one year, and I was in Artist Alley in WonderCon, and they had screwed up the number of badges I got. They screwed up my placement. Like it was just a mitigated disaster, right? And so I was like, thanks. And Sam's like, don't worry, we'll make it up to you. So up to this point, we hadn't been back in San Diego for many years because we did 3 years as a 10x10, and then it just got too pricey, and we couldn't do that anymore. And so he's like, okay, well, I'll stick you in Artist Alley for San Diego next year. So I was like, hell's yeah, that works for me. Sitting right next to Bill Mouse. And Bill's sitting there doing commissions and doing stuff, and he has his old stuff out there. And
he's such a nice guy.
Yeah,
I
nice
love
guy.
Bill.
We were just talking, and basically it was like, he was like, you know, her 25th anniversary is coming up. You know, I kind of want to do something. And I was like, yeah, Bill, if only you knew an independent publisher who specialized in creator-owned projects, who's literally sharing a bag of Cheetos, Flaming Hot Cheetos with you right now. If only we knew somebody like that. And he's like, oh, is that something you'd like to do? And I'm like, I read the book back in the 90s. Like I bought it off the shelf. I was working at a comic store at the time. You know, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Which that was the ground zero. It's 300 plus pages of all the old miniseries.
That's awesome. Is Bill part owner of that character, or is he
is 100% owner of that character?
100% owner. I didn't know that. Okay.
When Nira made her first appearance in Zen, the Intergalactic Ninja,
okay,
the only reason she showed up there is because they needed some kind of bounty hunter to kind of balance off Zen.
Oh,
So Bill was like, hey, I've got this idea for this character. How about I just throw him in there? And the creator of Zen, Steve Stern, was like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's just do that. We'll just have her. And she showed up in the last two panels. And then she showed up in like a couple other issues, miniseries here and there. And then
Bill just kind of took it and made it his own thing.
Build it in his own. And then when he wasn't drawing Zen, he was drawing Nira.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so it was very funny. And actually just recently met Steve Stern, the creator of Zen, on a podcast as well. We kept on trying to meet each other at San Diego this past year. But every time he would come by my booth, I would be somewhere off. Like he came by, I was upstairs doing portfolio reviews, you know, so I was up there for a couple hours. I walked by his booth. He wasn't down there because he went to go talk to somebody else over in Artist Alley. Then he comes back over to my booth and he went to talk to you at your booth. It's like literally, you know, and again, like Johnny knows it's at San Diego, you know, it's like,
it's a zoo. Yeah, definitely.
That's your day. You know, that's it. So literally over the course of 3 days, we were trying to meet up to the point where he literally just left a note, with my business partner at the table here's my phone number. Just call me at some point. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's a title I'd love to see back on the shelves. Is Zen. Like I remember it fondly in the 80s.
2024, Bill and Steve are getting together, and they're releasing a sequel to the I think it's called Bounty Wars is the sequel, but originally the biggest miniseries of Zen and Nira was one miniseries, and this is a continuation of that story.
Oh, cool! That's awesome to hear.
Years later, so
yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad they're doing that. That's cool. That might spark some interest from old time fans and everything.
Yeah.
You know,
well, the funny thing is, I go to shows and people walk by, and it definitely happened at Wicked. You know, when people walk by, I remember a book like that back in the day, and I'm like,
this is the book. Yeah.
That's good. You know, and I show them the big book, the Ground Zero, you know, which has 308 pages of story and content, you know, and they're just like, holy crap. They're like, wait, this is new? And I'm like, yep, you know, and because with the reprint book, we didn't just reprint the book. We actually did new story that leads into why you're reading reprints. So here's a time traveler. She
you get something new if you have the originals.
Travels into her own timeline and screws it up, and then the reborn story is right out of the end of that graphic novel. So you don't need it if you're familiar with the character, but it doesn't hurt to have it. And like you said, we're just not just reprinting stuff because, again, as a fan of comic books, I hate just buying something that I might as well just take the 4 issues I have at home.
Yeah,
staple them together and be like, "Ooh, new product." No, no, that's not a new product, guys. That's you know.
Yeah, no, you like to give them a little something, like you know.
Instead of being lazy, you had the digital files. That's nothing new. Like even if you reformat it, I don't want to hear it. You know.
Yeah.
So like, give me something. Give me a sketchbook. Give me an unused cover. Give me something.
Something, yeah.
You know.
No, I agree with you. I like to see stuff. Pete said that he has carpal tunnel syndrome because of those mouse pads. I love it.
One for another reason, and that's my brother-in-law. So I don't want to think about that reason. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So we're getting to the 90-minute mark here. So I'm going to start
for the boob one or the butt one. Which mouse pad?
Well, I think Pete only has the boob one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can find a picture of it.
So I don't even know if I have it up there. Actually, let me grab one. Hold on.
Oh, you have one, right?
Yeah, of course I do.
It's in the back.
Yeah, these things are pretty.
So
funny
while he's getting that, should we do social media for Bride?
Yeah. Well, hang on.
Oh, it looks like he's got it. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yep. So the funny thing is, so these are not available on the website. These are only available, or at least I don't think I have them on the website anymore. They are only available at shows because they're heavy, and I don't want to mail them out.
Can you show it like flat just so that people can see? Like,
yes, 3D.
Let's see the.
That's some great wrist support right there. Let me tell you.
Isn't that great?
That is great wrist support.
Right here, your nerve goes in between that. So your nerve is being supported.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's so funny. That is so funny.
And then, of course, like I said.
Oh, the butt one.
So I have a.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Again, kudos to perspective, right? Like that actually works perfectly. Like the fact that he was able to figure out a pose that actually worked.
I love it.
Phil is a sick man. So
my mouse pad's very boring. It has the same feature and functionality.
Oh, weird.
But yours is way cooler than mine.
It would be more interesting, right?
Honey, you gotta like draw something on yours, you know?
I need to put 2 nipples on this thing or something.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, okay, so this is the best part. So do you know the Dark One who did a book called Animal Mystic back in the day from Sirius Publishing? So he contacted me recently and said, as long as you have consent, Aaron, that's fine.
I can really get behind that butt one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So the third one, Greg, he contacted me after he saw that, or somebody had told him that I could get those manufactured. So he actually did one for his character for one of his Kickstarters, and he actually did opt for the nipple. And there is like a 10-cent charge per mouse pad for the nipple option. So yeah, I was just
I love it. That is funny. That is funny.
Again, the funny
It's
thing is
fun
that
though. It's
certain
like got that
projects it
cheesecake
works.
kind of quality to
And
it,
it's
you
not
know?
offensive, and it's not
Yeah.
over, but it's over the top. It's funny, it's fun, and it works
Exactly.
great
Like,
in the tone of what all of the books that we do.
well, that and I miss seeing those books on the stands. I was never a huge fan of them, but
Mhm.
they came at a time when I worked at the stores and like they were part of the whole culture there, you know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad not to see those type of books around as much
Just,
anymore, you
it's
know.
just fun.
They're around, but they're harder to find, you know.
Yeah, and again, a lot of them are more Kickstarter direct to like.
Yeah,
It's very
exactly. Like
interesting.
Lady Death and
I talked to a lot of people who do Kickstarters, and I don't have this mindset, but a lot of them they do it and they do their production run based upon their orders, with maybe a 5 to 10% overage on it, right? Meaning that they're going to sell out by the time they're done shipping. And then they move on to the next project. And my brain goes, but what happens if somebody sees it from somebody else and wants a copy and they missed it? And they're like, oh, well, that's too bad. You know, and we're always moving forward. We're always moving forward. And like, as a publisher mindset, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, no.
yeah.
You know, I'm like, that's not the way to do it, you know? So it's like with these mouse pads, it's like, yeah, chances are once these sell out, I'm not going to do them. But, you know, at least with the Nero one, we've done 2 runs of this one.
Yeah, that's great.
You know? We did a blue background and a white background on it, you know, and so, and you know, now they're actually a couple years old, so we're gonna, you know, go with the next couple, you know, whatever the new gag is, you know.
Yeah, right.
What we're gonna do. So,
Awesome.
but yeah, so it's just like I want stuff to always be available for people. You know, I never look at.
Yeah. No, I think,
you know,
and
having
it's
too much
something
stuff.
great. You could sell at conventions. You know, guys would love. Guys, I'm sure you sell them there all the time. You know.
Yeah. Oh, I got to put a sticker on there. It says, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Touch my boob and you owe me $1.
Yeah, right.
And,
you could probably make a tip jar right there.
I have made some money off of that.
Yeah, I bet.
So, people have come up and they just sit there and they poke, and I go, okay, give me $3.
All right. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. All right, so I'm gonna start wrapping this up, guys. I'd say let's start with Brian. Like Brian, if you want to give the viewers like just a quick pitch about your book and where we can find it, and then if you want to do any of your social media where people can follow you, feel free to give us all your links, I guess.
Yeah,
So share the
Amazon Francis and the Vegas Tramps is available from Amazon no matter where you are in the world. If you don't have Amazon for some reason, you can get it from me directly at shop.briankellyanarmy.com. My website is briankellyanarmy.com, and all social media is at Brian Kelly Army.
Okay, let me grab that while we're talking here. Brian Kelly Army, you said .com?
Yep.
All right, perfect. And then so I put the link for Amazon in the chat. So if you guys want to check that out, that's where you can get his book. The book's completed, and Amazon will send it to you right away.
Nice.
Is it Brian? I have briankellyarmy.com. Is that the...
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting a site can't be reached.
That happens sometimes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it happens to mine too. So just check it out, and then check it up. It'll probably be
get
back
it from
up
Amazon
tomorrow.
for now.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. And then Tom, how about you? Like, what? Where can people find you? Oh, of course, we're going to share the Kickstarter
so right now,
link.
The Kickstarter is my main goal at this point, to kind of get that there. Just like I said, I'd like to not have to pay for the entire print run myself, but if I have to, I will. So help defer my print run costs. That'd be great. But yeah, this 30 years of love of comic books, blood, sweat, and tears going into this story. And it's I've spent the past 24 years, publishing other people's stuff. So it's like it's nice to actually be writing and publishing something that I created, that I can legitimately sign, not just because my name is in every book. This one actually has a name creator that I can sign. So go to the Kickstarter. My Instagram is committed.comics. because of the fact that Committed Comics on Instagram was taken, and I can't figure out who has it, and they won't give it back to me. And yeah, thanks guys. And then the website is committedcomics.com. It's in a process of getting revamped, but the guy who's doing it, I'm literally going to have to fly to San Diego and choke him out because he's taking too long. So
I mean, it looks like it's fine the way it is now, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, it's on his
know.
secondary server type of deal, and we want to switch it over
Gotcha.
to a faster server and tweak the ordering page and that kind of stuff too. So
Makes
it's like
sense.
it's one of those. It's a lot of back end stuff. The front end won't really change all that much, but it is kind of like, can I just get it done?
Right. Yeah,
know?
I hear you.
But yeah, it's just. And then convention wise, we're going to be Atlanta Comic Con in February, early February, Planet Comic Con in Kansas City, Missouri. I think that's the end of April. I'll be wandering Emerald City in Seattle. That's my home show. I usually don't set up because I don't like to give ReedPop any more money than I have to.
Hear that? I hear that.
They have. They don't do anything for the industry, regardless of what industry you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in the toy industry, the comic book industry, unless you're in the celebrity industry, that's the only thing they do at this point.
Yep.
So it's
true.
Like, but and then San Diego, I got confirmation. I sent off my payment, lobbed off that arm, sent in that payment to them. No, ironically, actually, Johnny, I'm sure you're aware, that's the cheapest amount we'll ever pay for that much exposure. You go to San Diego, and if I get 0.05% of the attendance to notice me, that's 20,000.
That's huge.
Are you an Artist Alley normally, or where do they have you?
Small press L09.
Gotcha.
So, yep, that's where I've been for the past 4 or 5 years at this point. So,
gotcha.
And hopefully it's where I'll be until I die.
Right on.
Yeah, I hope to get out there again at some point. I got out there for the special edition. That was but it's the summer show is eluding me. I always try, but
the special edition was fun. I did the show. I was in a different spot, ironically enough, and I liked it. It definitely had an older feel to it, which is very ironic because it had an older feel, but the exhibit floor wasn't as gate kept as normally. So you had a bunch of vendors who had never been there, who had done hundreds of shows around the country, and they're setting up and they're doing the same type of setup, and it's not quite translating for them because it's a different show. It's not that same type of Comic-Con. You have to do something completely different for this show. So we're going to have some very cool stuff. I'm partnering again with the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog. So we'll be having volume 2 or version 2 of the Prize Mule trading cards. And I'm going to have 1 or 2 exclusives for that show.
Awesome.
San Diego official. So
Erwinberg in the chat. We haven't heard from these guys in a while. How's it going? Preaching about ReedPop. Locally, Steel City Con is our unfortunate version of that. Not affiliated with ReedPop, but similar approach.
I had heard Steel City wasn't that bad. I guess it maybe is starting to fall down the wayside.
Yeah.
So yeah, Keith, coming out. You and Johnny do some live podcasts from the
I
floor.
know we should. That would be really fun. That would be like just going around and interviewing people and
and do some late night sessions, like literally set up.
Yeah, that's true.
Night,
if I'm not dead, like
dead.
Usually I'm like
dead schmed.
Johnny can revive me with like one of those paddles or something,
Clear.
There we go. We got you. Clear.
There you go. That should revive
Yeah,
you.
right. Yeah, there you go.
Smelling salts.
That's great. Yeah, awesome. So this has been awesome, guys. Been a great now 100 minutes or so that we've been on. It's been great talking to you both about everything. Johnny, Harry, did you guys have any last things you wanted to say before we close out for the year?
Well, I mean, nothing really going on at the moment. I finished that comic that I was working on.
That's awesome. You made it. You got it done in time.
Yeah, before the year was over. That's good. So I'm just once I get a hard copy of it, I'll show it off. It's called Bad to Billy Gray. And also I'll leave you guys with a PSA for this time of year, because like today I received a text message from the U.S. Post Office, and it said, "Hey, we were unable to get a full. We got a partial address for the package that you have coming. Can you click on this link and give us your actual your complete address? I'm like, that's kind of weird. So then but it had like the whole U.S. United States Postal Service logo and everything. And I'm like, all right. So I clicked on it.
Did you check the email? What did the email look
like?
I
checked the email from the package that I am actually ordering or getting, and it had my complete name and address. I'm like, wait a second, they have it. Like, how would they know to text me? Why would they text me? So
right.
I'm like, wait a second. So then I went to the. I'm like, you know what? I'm not. And then I backed out of it. After I clicked on it, I'm like, crap. So I backed out of it, and then I get another one immediately after, like another text message from the U.S. Postal Department office, whatever. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So then I went to after work today. I went down to the post office in Leominster, and I'm like, hey, do you guys do this at all? Do you guys send out text? Like, no, that's a scam. So don't do that. So if anybody's waiting,
did they get any info from you, or did you catch it before?
No, they had my. I think I typed in my name and my address. Like, what am I doing here? I'm like, so I backed up. Then I had a section for your credit card info. I'm like, goodbye. So I backed out of it.
Good.
So I would suggest to you, Harry, if you haven't already, I would change any passwords that are linked to your phone. Because if you clicked on the link,
that's a good idea.
You opened a back door onto your phone.
Oh, great.
Go to your computer, go to all those websites, like your Gmail or any other thing or your bank thing, change all the passwords, but don't change them on your phone. Change them off your phone.
Yeah.
And then re-log into them. Because that way, if they did breach your system and that kind of stuff, it will not allow them to gain access as easily.
Yep. So,
Harry, Amy says if you send her your social security number and your mother's maiden name, she'll make sure the scammers don't bother you anymore.
Nice.
All right, I'll get on it. Just like you guys, just like now, it's gonna be out in the ether like your address, like your home address. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah, right.
So a little PSA. Don't.
Check those. Check where those emails are coming from. That's the first thing I look at is what their email
post office will not send you a text message. So just
it's always like it always say like postoffice.net.gov. It's like some kind of weird email
weird. It was a jumbled email. Some weird.
Good PSA though, because sometimes they do get you with those. Like
people are look like you said at this time of year, people are busy and they click on it. They go, okay, I just need to get this because
I usually don't order anything online. I do have one package that's coming. That's the only one that I ordered. That I'm waiting for that I haven't gotten yet. I'm like, it's been a few days since I ordered it. That's why I got a little I wouldn't have clicked on it if I didn't have that package out there. So. But I'm sure they know that people are waiting for packages to come in.
Absolutely. Everything's slower this time of year,
Yep.
Yeah. Amy said Thomas's tip about the password saved on the phones is solid. Yeah. You should definitely do that, Harry, because I agree. I think that they might have like a little, backdoor into your system now, So, but that's a good PSA. Yeah, exactly. How about you, Johnny? Anything going on that you want to mention?
Well, I just want to take this minute to thank Brian and Tom for coming on the show. I know schedules can be so busy, and I know given that you're overseas, Brian is probably kind of late for you. So we appreciate you making it
very early.
Or very early, exactly. So we really appreciate you making the time to come on the show, share your project with us, and kind of expose, some of your art style and your creative art style to a new audience. And same for you, Tom. I'm, so awesome to be able to make the connection. And, I hope Joe serves the story very well for you.
He's doing a great job. We just need to make sure that we can coordinate our schedules so he has time to work on both the projects at the same time.
For sure.
So
I've been pretty flexible with him, so it's good.
Such a small world, isn't it? Like,
I know, isn't it great?
It really is.
It really is.
And just thank you for coming on the show. And just given that this is the last show of the year, I just want to say I'm grateful to come on and share everybody's indie projects with everybody else, and just to kind of partake and be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, hey, here's to 2024, and onto our 1,000 subs finally. Hopefully, you know,
Right.
Mhm.
It's
probably by
smooth sailing
summer.
from that
I'm hoping
point
by
on.
summer. Yeah, exactly. I'm
You'll
hoping
probably
by
reach that
summer
before
we
the end
hit
of the
that
year.
1,000. What's that?
I said you'll probably reach that before the end of the year. You said you're.
I
At like
hope so. Like
9:35 or 9:30 or.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're at like 927, and like I think consistently we get about 3 or 4 a week. So
There
like
you go. Yeah.
you know, so I'm thinking by spring we'll hit that number. Because what I've heard about YouTube is they help you after you hit 1,000. Like the
Right.
algorithm
Basically,
starts to help you.
Right. After you show enough interest, then you start showing up on the recommended thing.
Right, exactly, and that's when you can really start killing it. You know,
Yeah.
so. But yeah, so hopefully we'll get to that point, you know. But yeah, also I want to say, yeah, thank you to both of you guys coming on the show, and also the audience. I want to, you know, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, because we won't be back until like after the New Year. So,
Yeah.
you know, so hopefully read some comics in that time, you know. So,
Mhm.
Be
but
excellent to one another.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go ahead and start closing this out. Any last words before we end this one, guys?
Well, just thank you for having us. You know, I
Thanks.
appreciate you guys finding time to close out the year with the best possible guests.
Yes, yes.
You just
Yeah,
we
this
can
has been a
offer,
great
right, Brian?
show.
Yeah.
And it's great to have you on, Tom, and make that connection again.
Yeah,
you know?
that's very funny. That was again, like I said, I was watching some of the other videos, just catching
I
up.
was
and
like, I think I've talked to this guy before.
"Hey, mascots look really familiar."
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's great. I'm glad you could come on. But all right, yeah. So we're gonna end this one, guys, and so have a great Christmas, great New Year, and we'll see you in a couple weeks live again after the
Yeah.
New
Merry
Year.
Christmas. See you next year.
All
Happy New
right.
Year.
Good night, everybody.
Ciao.